The transgender movement in this country, if there's a movement in this country that is demonic and that is full of the spirit of Antichrist, it is the transgender movement.
Remember, this man is in politics. This man is a lieutenant governor. He is not just a pastor preaching to an audience. If he was just that, maybe it wouldn't be as bad. I mean, it would still be bad, but this is a person who legitimately holds a position of power. Alrighty. No, I'm not going to sleep. I just know that I'm going to have to cover Mark Robinson. Now, if you guys are not familiar with the dude, he is the lieutenant governor in North Carolina. And he is quite the evangelical. This is one of the many reasons why my atheist content and my political content tend to nexus together, as it were. It's never fun to recognize that, but it is unfortunately the reality of the situation. But before we get into talking about him, we need to get into the fan art section. And this one is from Shark Fox Panda. This is an ASCII Suris with apparently bedroom eyes. I'm going to be honest, it looks better on stream than it does when I'm looking at it here because it's like I'm farther away. And it's the witch model. It's witch model Suris. This is probably one of the more ambitious pieces that has been dropped. But yeah, definitely cool. The next bit that we have is one from Karamba. As per usual, there is no context given, but there is adorableness, like absolute adorableness over here. I greatly enjoy this piece. As always, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want submissions, if you want your fan art to be featured in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it into the fan art section of the Discord. With that said, let's go ahead and talk about Mark Robinson. Let's talk about him. Now, the quality of this video is certainly not the greatest, but hopefully the quality of his words will ring through to us. The conservative rhetoric that appeals to the intuition of the masses. Let's go ahead and hear the dulcet tones of the status quo.
Here's something else I'm not supposed to say. Ain't but two genders.
Okay, I want you to pause for a second. Now, first of all, so when the dude says there aren't but two genders, yeah, non-binary phobia right off the bat. Yep, non-binary people apparently don't exist. Gender is definitely not a social construct, despite the plethora of evidence we have that it is. Also, I just want to, I want to play the clip again, but I want you to focus on this lady in the background. I want you to see, if you've ever once been in a church and you've seen somebody, quote, filled with the Holy Ghost, you will recognize this exact, you will recognize the moment she gets filled with the Holy Ghost. Here, take a look.
Ain't but two genders.
That whole, like, the slow look up, the mouth opens wide. It's like they're receiving divine revelation. That ends up sounding lewd. Of course it ends up sounding lewd, but remember, God is omnipresent. He is currently, collectively, in all of your assholes, whether you want him or not. If you did not want God to sodomize you, I'm sorry, he is there, and also in your throat. God has collectively made all people, at once, the throat goats. Let's go ahead and take a look now that we have our lovely Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson and also our in the background. Let's go. God doesn't just watch you masturbate. God exists perpetually within the micromolecules between your hand and whichever genitalia you happen to have. He's not just watching you. He is actively involved in the act.
Two genders.
Gotta say it again for the people who couldn't understand it the first time, I guess.
Ain't nothing but men and women.
They're all just so happy about this. This brings them joy. This is the best thing they heard all day.
And I can already see WRL out there. They got they licking their pencils right now, trying to write fierce as they can. Get every word of this here. Get every word of this. You can go to the doctor and get cut up. You can go down to the dress shop and get made up. You can go down there and get drugged up. But
he's talking about bottom surgery, top surgery, cross-dressing, and hormone therapy, but in the most derogatory of ways possible. Also, look at the one random white guy in the background. Can you see the smile of glee in his face? Can you see the absolute happiness that is ringing through him right now? This is a very strange scene. I'm not gonna lie.
But at the end of the day, you were just a drugged up, dressed up, made up, cut up man or woman.
You're right. They are a man or woman, potentially, and also potentially other things in between. But this is weird. So his argument, his screeching argument is about non-binary people, ostensibly, but his examples are just about people who have transitioned from one end of the extreme to the other. This is kind of strange, because you'd think the examples he would have given would have been about non-binary people, but apparently he doesn't understand any of the nuances where gender is concerned, and so he has to resort to the fear-mongering about trans people in general in order to attack NBs. Kind of funny, honestly. Is kind of funny. Yeah, Suzu, you don't exist. I'm sorry. No NBs allowed. No NBs allowed. Not here, not now, not ever. Apparently, according to Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson in North Carolina. Apparently.
You ain't changed what God put in you, that DNA.
They don't have to change their DNA, my dude. Gender is a social category. You're talking about sex. This is the general thing. Like, these people seem to be very confused over what gender is or how it works. Always. They should probably maybe do a little research in there. Because at the end of the day, a trans person is going to look at you and go, but I'm not trying to change my DNA. My DNA wasn't part of the conversation, Mark. My DNA was never part of the conversation. I don't know why you think it was.
You can't transcend God's creation. I don't care how hard you try.
Okay. So let me get this straight. Anybody who wears glasses is technically transcending God's creation because they created your eyes fucked up. And now you've got glasses because of your fucked up eyes so that you can transcend the limits of God's creation. I guess that's just I guess glasses don't exist now. But this is also an interesting point, because what we see here is not somebody trying to argue scientifically against trans people, not somebody trying to argue philosophically against trans people. They are trying to argue religiously against trans people, which, if you are familiar with informal logic in any way, shape, or form, you already recognize this for what it is. This is a category error. Your religiosity has nothing to do with the concept of gender. How about shaving your beard and cutting your hair? Wouldn't that be considered transcending God's creation? God created you with a beard, don't shave it.
The transgender movement in this country, if there's a movement in this country that is demonic and that is full of the spirit of Antichrist, it is the transgender movement.
Remember, this man is in politics. This man is a lieutenant governor. He is not just a pastor preaching to an audience. If he was just that, maybe it wouldn't be as bad. I mean, it would still be bad, but this is a person who legitimately holds a position of power. And as he is an individual that legitimately holds a position of power, we have to treat him as if he is a person in power, saying these things with weight behind their words, because I guarantee you his congregation and his political constituents will treat it the exact same way.
It's time for grown-ups and time for Christians to start standing up and being unafraid to tell the truth.
So what is the truth here? Is it just you being hateful? Because I'm going to go ahead and pull a card that would be very awkward for you. There were a lot of Christians back in, what, 200 years ago, that would argue that you deserved to be a worker on a plantation, and they would use biblical arguments in order to keep you there. Now, it should be noted that there were also Christians who would use biblical arguments to argue for emancipation. It is a good idea to make sure that y'all know that this is not just a purely theistic problem. This is the problem with religious justification in general when it comes to things they categorically have no authority over. You can use the Bible to justify anything. You can use the rhetoric that comes from that book to justify any movement of any point at any time. It is that vague, or at least it can be used in that vague of a way. So whenever we hear Christians need to rise up about this satanic thing, there's probably another group of Christians somewhere that think you're the satanic thing that they need to be rising up against. You can't both be right, but you can both be wrong.
Come after me if you want to. I don't care. You want my head? Here it is right here. Come on, come get it.
Okay, what are we going to do? Wax it? You seem to be already doing a very good job of that yourself.
I don't care because it's time for us to stand up. And I'm not afraid to stand up and tell the truth about that issue. They're dragging our kids down into the pit of hell, trying to teach them that mess in our schools.
And now we've got the bit where he is fear-mongering about people being taught that trans people exist in school. So let's go ahead and tackle this one as well. So if you teach kids that trans people exist in school, the likelihood that they will be more accepting of those trans people increases when they become adults. If you don't teach them about this, then suddenly trans people are a new and scary concept for them whenever they actually enter adulthood and start interacting with people outside of the small niche group they grew up with. As a result, the end goal here is not just to crap on trans people, it is also to make sure that you are perpetually reinforcing and creating several generations of children that will grow up to be bigots. This is the same rhetoric that gets used against gay people. This is the same rhetoric that got used against black people as well. Teaching that white people and black people were equal. People who were pro-segregation did not want that being taught in schools. And yet here we are. If you want to grow up a generation of children who are blindingly ignorant, then you cookie cut all of the things that color our society out of their education and leave that for them to figure out when they are adults. Or you can teach them that these people do in fact exist, and there's a chance that some of them in each and every classroom may grow up and realize they are this kind of person. There's another aspect of this too, and that is that if you constantly squash the information about trans people to children, you create an environment where it is incredibly hard for children who may need puberty blockers to even understand that they might need it. And certain things like puberty, which can cause irreparable damage to a trans person, might have to experience a puberty of a gender they did not consent to being treated as. And now this creates other issues. For instance, if you are a trans woman, but you have had to go through a male puberty, there's a lot of problems that come with that that exacerbate dysphoria. Not the least of which being how hard it can be to train your voice vocally to sound feminine again. And surgery for your vocal cords is not a 100% guaranteed effective thing anyway. It would be better if a child thinks that they are suffering from dysphoria to be given blockers to buy themselves time to figure out if this is a thing that they have. And if they do keep experiencing it and they do need to transition, then they should be given that opportunity, as opposed to having to go through 2 puberties, one of which they did not consent to. And yes, it is viewed as confirmation if they get persecuted. He wants people to be angry at him. He wants people to make fun of him. He wants people to be his enemy when he does this, because when they are, he gets to feel like he is justified in his beliefs. And yeah, the best thing about puberty blockers, they're easy to reverse. Do you want to know the complicated multi-step process to reversing the effects of puberty blockers? It's very difficult. Here, I'll lay it out for you. Take notes. It is incredibly difficult. You you stop taking them. You stop taking them. You just stop taking the puberty blockers. Then you get your puberty, and you're good. But you know, go ahead. Be a dippus shiticus like Robert.
Tell you like this, that ain't got no place at no school.
Teaching people that other diverse people exist does have places in school. School is for education and enrichment of children's lives.
2 + 2 don't equal transgender.
Nobody said it did. Congratulations, you are the king of committing category errors. It's kind of funny, actually.
It equals 4. You need to get back to teaching them how to read.
Can we get them to read a biology book that talks about the bimodal distribution of gametes? Can we get them to read a sociology course? Can we get them to read studies, sociological studies, that show what gender is and how it operates? Can we do that? You know, I agree, Mark. We should teach children how to read better. Get them reading more studies. Get them reading more books. And then maybe they will come out of the education factory not looking like you.
Instead of teaching them how to go to hell.
Nobody's teaching them how to go to hell.
Yeah, I said it and I mean it.
God, he's so mad. He's so mad. He's so unreasonably angry. And it would be funny if he were not a person in a position of power affecting the lives of people for generations to come. I guarantee you he doesn't know what anything you just said is. Well, that is why I would like more kids to grow up to not be like him and know how to fucking read. That's what I would like. He is more than likely the type of person who would say he's a man of one book. But with that said, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you haven't already. And, well, if you want to support the channel, there's plenty of ways to do so in the description. As always, everyone, learn to fucking read. And also, insert end of video tagline here.